I'm Laura Chandler, host of the Sacred Stream radio podcast. And on the latest episode, I was really happy to get to sit down with Hogarth and talk about his new book and also get his astrological perspective on a few things. This is an excerpt from the interview. And if you'd like to see the full interview, you can pop over to the Sacred Stream YouTube channel, or you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for listening. Well, I mean, it's fascinating. And one of the things I love about astrology, and particularly Vedic astrology, is it's a lens through which to perceive what is happening. It's yet another way of perceiving things and interpreting things and understanding things. And it's it's an intelligent um, methodology. It's a science.
Yes.
And
What do you?
what I really love about your book is, and I'm just going to give people again, the book is
Thank you.
The Candid Guide to Neo-Vedic Astrology. And it is packed with information, and you can really thumb through and find yourself in the book. You can understand yourself, you can understand your loved ones, you can also you give so much information here, Hogarth. And
Thank you.
back to what you were describing in Ketu, I mean, how uncanny. I have a friend who's going into her case Ketu, is it Dasha? The Ketu
Dasha,
Dasha.
right. Need you, Dasha.
And she's nervous about it. And she thinks, "Oh, it's all about loss and giving things up and all of this." And this is someone who's very spiritual, has a very strong spiritual practice, does really good work in the world. And I said, "I think we need to do a session with Hogarth, but I think too that your K2 period could actually be something positive." And so I'm just gonna pop that question to you, like what your
Oh,
take is on.
thank you. That's a great question. So the nodes of the moon in general, in terms of the chart, they're the hardest parts to master
Mm.
because they deal with our fate and destiny. So Rahu, to explain, is the head of the dragon without the body. So Rahu can deal with obsession and wanting something a lot. That's why I call him gobble gobble. Yeah.
Mm.
So the shadow of Rahu, people can get lost. Rahu loves fame, food, drink, drugs, all of the naughty, or everything naughty. Rahu loves. He loves shortcuts. This is why he deals with charlatans and scandals and all of this stuff. And this is why he also deals a lot with politics. Yeah, look at the egos in politics. But what Rahu does on the positive, he will always bring us something exotic, new. The challenge of Rahu is that we have to be prepared to go out of our comfort zone. And I call it the Indiana Jones moment, where we have to take our little machete and we need to go out into the jungle. Rahu represents the jungle, the unknown. And even though it can be frightening and he can represent poisons and charlatans and all of this stuff, he can also represent incredible opportunities, wealth, luxuries, fame, all of those things, but also where you can truly discover your potential. So there's that. Now, the Ketu energy is very different. Ketu is an introverted energy. Ketu is the moksha kaka, which means liberation from this world. Rahu adores the world, adores all of its trappings, all of Maya. Ketu's like, not interested. Yeah. Ketu energy has been there, done that. It's like going through the gift shop. The symbol for Ketu is a flag, which means conquered land. Ketu deals with our past and our past lives, the land that we've already conquered in some kind of way. So the Ketu area of life, we can be like, meh, been there, done that. Or it can represent things in our childhood we weren't able to avoid. So what does it mean when we're in a Ketu dasha? It all depends on the spiritual development of the person. if a person is too attached to, their egoic life, their status, how much possessions they have, I mean, and I'm not saying it's bad to have those things. It can be very good to have those things. But if it's become their entire identity, if they've completely identified with all of the material things that they have in their egoic structures and they're thinking that they're doing absolutely everything, then what Ketu does, snip, snip, he can often separate a person from those things. And we've seen this separation that Declarange is going through. Yeah, he was almost what? Given moksha. He was almost killed. Yeah. The other form of moksha is leaving this earth. Ketu can deal with like dying in that sense. But when a person has already developed themselves spiritually and they've already learned a lot of lessons about the essence of what it means to be a human being, the Ketu Dasha can be very profound. A person's spiritual insights can really deepen and go to the next level. But Ketu does deal with dissatisfaction. So sometimes that person might just be like, they might become renunciate. They may renounce the world. So your friend, for example, might be feeling like, oh, you know what? I just want to be a monk or a priestess or a priest or whatever. I just want to be on the top of the mountain. I'm sick and tired of the world and these people and politics and everything going on. Ketu can be like, I'm done with it. Yeah. So she might be feeling a combination of those things. She could be feeling those things just like, you know what? I'm really tired of the world. I'm really tired of people. I'm really tired of politics. I'm tired of the drama. Yeah, Ketu doesn't like drama. So as your friend's Ketu Dasha comes closer, she's going to be feeling these things more and more. And the irony of the Dasha is, even though it's very spiritual, it can sometimes, a person can feel that their senses might be deadened in some way. They might feel flat about life. The things that usually gave them pleasure may not give them as much pleasure anymore. And this is what takes them on the journey, because Ketu is also known as the gypsy, meant to travel. So what I would recommend for your friend, and particularly she came to me for a reading, I'd recommend that she go on some sort of spiritual pilgrimage. Maybe something like, I don't know what her religion is, or she may not have any religion, she may be spiritual, but something like walking the Camino, for example, which is doing the big walk from France down to Spain, going on any kind of pilgrimage. If she's Muslim, then going on the Hajj. She's Catholic, going to the Vatican. But pilgrimage, journeying, and detachment, it doesn't always have to mean loss, but I hope that gives a good overview.
So helpful, because she's not the only one I know who worries about Ketu. So I think for, any of my listeners who are familiar with Vedic astrology and don't what I'm hearing from you, Hogarth, is don't be afraid of Ketu, and that it may be bringing some spiritual richness to your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. That's really helpful. Well, there's something that's also stuck out to me that maybe you'd want to talk about. It's a little bit of a step aside from Ketu to Saturn. And it just struck me that you said Saturn is the guru of gurus in the book. You mentioned this. And I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit more about what you mean by that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for these great questions. It's such a pleasure because I so rarely ask this stuff. And why do I call Saturn guru of gurus? So Jupiter, so if we think of planet Jupiter, who's known as the Great Benefic, the Sanskrit name for Jupiter is guru. So it's where we actually essentially get the name guru from. It's like a Sanskrit word from what I understand. So of course it means great teacher, learned person, etc., all of these things. Now, why do I call Saturn Guru of Gurus? The reason why I call Saturn Guru of Gurus is because Saturn is the reality check. He is the planet of strife, yeah, challenges, hard work, graft, career. He also deals with grace and backbone, but he's also the planet of fear. He's also the planet of survival. Wherever Saturn is in the chart, we have to work hard. Wherever he was when we were born and whichever house he's transiting through will always require more work, more focus. But Saturn is also the ancient planet of harvest. He is a planet of reward, but only after efforts. Saturn will give his rewards in proportion to the effort that a person has put in. And the efforts or the fruits of our efforts do not necessarily come when we would want them to. They come when Saturn says, now it is time. So this is really, really interesting because Saturn is real life. Saturn is the reality check. And everyone knows, of course, Mercury retrograde. Yeah. Oh gosh, it's Mercury retrograde. Make sure you look up keys in your emails. We've all been there. Yeah. Mercury goes retrograde about 3 times a year, around about 2 to 3 weeks each time. Saturn, all the planets go retrograde at some stage. It takes Venus only goes retrograde once every 2 years or something like that. But Saturn goes retrograde every year. And at this stage in his phase, he goes retrograde in the early summer all the way up until November. So whenever a planet goes retrograde, whatever it represents, the retrograde means review, revise, reassess. So of course, Saturn is the planet of what? Government, yeah? Infrastructure, rules, regulations. Saturn also deals with older people, yeah? He's the grandfather, grandmother planet. Or he's the crone, for women. And I think that's a word women should claim back for themselves. They really should, particularly with the second Saturn return. It's so powerful. And actually that's very relevant for Kamala Harris as well. If we talk about her as well, she's just had a second Saturn return, by the way. Yeah. So she's now coming really she's at the time in her life when women really genuinely start to come into their fullest power. So Saturn deals with the career, our legacies, our standing in the world, the things that will endure with time. But he teaches us harsh lessons. Now, when it came to the debate, because we did, like you said, our last collaboration just before the debate. Now, in my show, I think was 2 weeks previous to that, on one of my Hogely shows, people asked me, how would the debate go? Yeah, well, they asked us. And then I saw the cards that I got. Now, I knew what was going to happen, but look, we know what's transpired since, but we can imagine there was a lot of affection out there for Biden and stuff like that. People holding very close to his heart. So I wasn't able to be as explicit as I would have liked to have been in that prediction. But what I said, because I saw the cards that he got, I can't remember all of them, but one of them was the 7 of Cups, 4 of Swords, and the Hermit. And I said, one of the candidates in the show is going to come across very confused. It's not going to go the way that people expect. I said one of the candidates is going to be wounded in battle and may have to leave the battlefield, because that's what the 4 of Swords is. It shows a person in a mausoleum. Yeah, it means to be wounded in battle or even forcibly retired. That's what it can mean. It can mean retirement. And then the Hermit card was there as well, which is about what? Review, reflection, isolation, having to figure things out, having to retreat from the world. So when I saw those cards, I looked at it and I knew exactly what it meant. I was like, Biden's going to have a howler and it could possibly end his career. Like, imagine if I'd said that at the time. Imagine if I said, hey, folks, all over. Yeah. People, I mean, already people react very strongly to my predictions.